Hello. In this video we're going to go through learning target 6.3.3, which is on the law of cosines. And I'm going to label this part 1 because we are only going to use the law of cosines today to solve for missing sides. And then in part 2 we'll use it to do missing angles. So the law of cosines, first, it's important to remember when we can use it. So we can only use when given side, 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 or side, angle, side. Those are the only two situations where we can use the law of cosines. And then we have our actual law of cosines formula. And the picture is going to help us visualize this. So draw a quick triangle. And capital letters are going to be our angles. And then lowercase letters are going to be our sides. And for the law of cosines, we're kind of matching up the angle and its opposite side. So capital A is over here, and then directly across would be its matching side, little a. And then capital B all the way across is little b, capital C all the way across is little c. And then there's technically 3 versions of the law of cosines, one for A, one for B, and one for C. But if we just write one of them and then go through an example, you'll see that you can kind of use that one for every single example that you're given. So for our law of cosines, we have a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of capital A. And you don't have to memorize this formula, but you do have to know how to use it. And it's kind of helpful to label each part of this formula with what it actually means in an example. And so little a right out front, this is going to be the side we care about. So in certain cases, it's the side that we are looking for. So today we're going to be finding missing sides, so it's going to be the side that we are missing. In other cases, it is the side across from the angle that we're looking for. So it's kind of like the matching side to the angle that we care about. And so this is the angle we care about. Again, same thing, sometimes it's the angle across from the side that we're trying to find, and sometimes it's the angle we're trying to find. It just depends on the problem. And then B and C are just the other two sides. And the order doesn't particularly matter, so it doesn't matter which side is B and which side is C. They're just the other two sides. So feel free to pause that and write it down if you don't have it yet, but let's go through an example of what this is going to look like. So for our example, let's say this first one says, find side DE. And we have this triangle. So my very first step is to make sure that I can actually use the law of cosines, or later if we're going to be using the law of sines. So remember, law of cosines we can only use if we have SSS or SAS. We obviously do not have side, side, side because I'm missing this side. But I do have side, angle, side. So I can use the law of cosines. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to label what we're missing, what we're trying to find, with an X. So we're trying to find DE, so I'm going to label this X. And then I'm going to circle what I'm trying to find. So I'm trying to find this. So I'm going to draw some attention to it by circling it. And then you're going to draw an arrow across the triangle and circle its matching angle. Okay, because remember we care about the side and we care about the angle. These are going to go on our ends. So our circled things go on the ends. And so let's start filling this in. So the first thing we start with is the side that we care about. So the side we care about is this x. So I have x squared. Then this chunk are just the other two sides. And it doesn't matter if you let 16 be b or 18 be b, as long as you have them both. So I always just go in numeric order, so I just do the smallest one first every time. So I'm going to do 16 squared plus 18 squared. And because these will always be positive because they're side lengths, you don't need to use parentheses for the squared part. You can if you want. Then we have minus 2. And then these are all squished together, so I will need to use parentheses over here. 16 and 18. And then the cosine of this angle, the angle we care about. And again, it's circled. So it's nice that like the side on the left is circled and then the angle on the right is circled. So we have 21. And the really nice thing about solving for sides is that this whole complicated mess can all get typed into the calculator, which makes our job very easy. So over here we still have x squared, and then I can type this exactly as it's written, either in a calculator or in the Google calculator works just as well. So I have 16 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 parentheses 16 parentheses 18 cosine of 21. And we get 42 point all of this. And the important thing with law of cosines and law of sines is you don't want to round too early. Because if this was just our answer, we could round it. But you'll see that we still have to end up taking the square root of both sides. So we do not want to round just yet. So you can either write all of this down, and then when you go to square root, you can type it all as well. So I just write like as many digits as they give me so that it's not rounded. Or you can do in the actual calculator and in the Google calculator, if you type the square root and then you hit the ANS button, it takes the square root of your previous answer without rounding it at all. And so that can really help you be very specific. So the Google calculator has this ANS button as well. And so we can now round it because this is our answer, 6.5. And I like to just double check to see if this number makes any sense in my triangle. It'll help me avoid a couple of the common misconceptions. One mistake that students often make is they forget to square root it. So if you thought your answer is 42.3, hopefully you can see that this length does not make any sense to be 42.3. But 6.5 does seem pretty reasonable. It's smaller than these two sides, so I know that it's smaller than 16 and 18. So this does seem to make some sense for this length. The other common mistake that students make is forgetting to change the calculator to degrees. If you don't change the calculator to degrees, this cosine part will be wrong, and so that means your answer will be wrong. Again, you can always just double check to see if it makes any sense, and typically if you forget to change it to degrees, the answer does not make sense. So that can help you identify that mistake as well. And that's it for finding sides. You just want to identify the side and angle you care about by putting them both in circles. Start with the side you care about, and then the other two sides go into the formula. And then you end with the angle that you care about and type all that into your calculator and square root.